What's up, dudes? Welcome back to another episode of Rhomas Men's Team. Pretty simple. We are a group of guys helping each other make progress towards each other's goals. If you're new to the channel, awesome and welcome. If you want to help support the channel and join our pro team, head over to rhomasteam.com/pro, where you can contribute to us on a donation basis. We also give you access to exclusive content, mastermind groups, etc., etc. So anyway, hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you on the team. What's up, Mr. Ray?
Mr. Ray is doing fine. It's raining in Canada. July 1st is Canada Day, where we celebrate this country that we love. And so, this is our day off. So just enjoying it with my fam. And
did you say July 1st? It's the 3rd.
Yeah, but like the 1st fell in the middle of the weekend. So the day off work is today.
Oh, got it. Okay. Just an excuse for Canadians to take off work again.
Right. It's a socialist thing. It's, it's baked into our culture. What? It's like Asian American Appreciation Day. Everyone go home.
Testing. Larry's saying he can't hear us. Testing. Can Lucas or MFG, can you guys hear us? Let us know in the chat. I assume you can. But anyway, yeah, man. How was the weekend, buddy?
Weekend was glorious. I was out in Prince Edward County, which is, our cottage country or our kind of weekend home kind of little piece of paradise, running my gallery, swimming in the lake, just kind of like, just cherishing every moment, man. And, away from Thea, away from Sarah, which is not always good, but sometimes it is good, And so it sure as hell was good this time.
Are you going out there? You're going out there pretty consistently now.
7 weekends in a row, and it's going to be through just about the end of July. So it's really going to be the defining feature of my summer.
And then that is to sell art.
Yeah.
And
because,
then, so is because your gallery's closer to Toronto, right?
I sell art in Toronto, but so picture me selling art in New York and me opening a little pop-up in the Hamptons for the summer, right? Or selling art in LA and opening a pop-up in Palm Springs.
Got it. Right? It's a pop-up. Okay, that's the part that I was missing. Okay, awesome. And how's that going for you?
It's going great. I have not figured out how to sell art impulsively to tourists, which is kind of a different skill set. So like I'm still selling art to my dedicated clients. I'm sourcing art and finding it for them. But so far I haven't sold anything to strangers who just walk in and just want to drop $4,000.
Got it.
So it's hard for me to know which ones are the ones that are going to do that, and sometimes I don't feel like treating everyone like a prince and being kind, you know what I mean? And so, so that is a bit of a journey, but no regrets, loving every minute of it, trying to, have gratitude and kind of get out of my comfort zone once in a while, which is kind of a paradox, right? Like cherish every moment and also get out of my comfort zone whenever possible. I think I mentioned this last time. There was a Brené Brown / Tim Ferriss interview that we watched, right?
Oh yeah.
And she
phenomenal interview.
Paradox is the only thing that has enough tension to capture the human experience, right? And so paradox is like, and so for me, the way I interpret that is nothing is black and white. Nothing is like good or bad. There's kind of like a healthy way to do something or an unhealthy way to do something, right? And so it's a paradox that like, that I love it out there, and I'm also it puts me out of my comfort zone, right? Like It's a paradox that I'm not successfully selling the art in that gallery, but I still consider myself successful. Right. And again, that's a paradox is the only thing that has enough tension to capture the human experience. Right. Like, because when Larry said, design the life you want and then own it. In other words, less poetically, just like act like you already have it. Right. That is kind of a paradox because you don't have that Ferrari yet. You don't have that, mansion yet, but Larry's inviting us to feel it, to believe it, to, make room in our heart and our mind for that. But it's kind of a paradox, right? Because you're not a millionaire yet, but he asks us to, own that millionaire mindset. So, so there's a bit of paradox going on there. I had a great weekend, just to answer your question.
Awesome, dude. Yeah, no, I'm happy for you. I know that you're expanding out on your horizons for the business. It takes time. But as always, I give you credit for having the guts to do it.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah. Curveball question for you here.
Yes.
What has been in recent memory the most profound content you have stumbled over? That could be a book, it could be a TV show, it could be YouTube.
So I was just listening to Huberman today because both of us are a little bit busy right now. So our scorecard has absolutely fallen into like the pit of infinity from which there is no bottom.
Yep.
I managed to do 5 minutes of meditation today, managed to chug some water. And I just tried to play a little bit of Andrew Huberman, whatever the first thing was on his podcast stream. And it was the greatest hits of trying to give people a workout plan. Good morning, Larry.
Good morning.
And
Larry, what's up, brother?
So the first, and so I just I wrote down what the first line of it was, and it was, let's see. Good sleep is the foundation of mental health, physical health, and performance. Not sleeping enough, all those things suffer. Conversely, when we are sleeping enough, all those things improve. So I haven't had a chance to read the whole or listen to the whole pod, but sleep is something we keep coming back to because we're neglecting it. And just for him to phrase it like that is just so succinct, Mental health, physical health, and performance is the foundation of sleep. Sleep is the foundation of mental health, physical health, and performance. We are also cat sitting a little kitten, which is paradoxically slashing chunks of skin off of my body.
Not a big fan of being babysat by you. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a piece of content that struck me, dude.
Awesome. So I think what I hear you saying there is that it's one of those 4-point swings in basketball, right? You could score 2 points if you do this, but if you don't do it, you could also get 2 points scored against you. So there's a positive and there's a negative to it. Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Larry, I'm going to throw the question over to you. Curveball question. In recent memory, what is one of the most profound pieces of content that you've consumed? Could be a book, TV show, YouTube, tweet, etc. And if you need some time to think about it, let me know. I can answer for myself.
I think, and I was it from you guys on the concept of what truly is our identity?
We'll expand more on it. It may have been because we've talked about identity a handful of times over the last handful of weeks.
Yeah. I've been writing a lot about who's showing up and this concept of everybody wants to be a better version of themselves. And then it kind of stops there. And then we get back to doing our lives. And we have to kind of remind ourselves of, I wasn't judgmental just then, was I? So that the whole concept is on what is your identity? I mean, is it this natural free free-flowing entity that's a part of the universe and just constantly creating and expanding? Or is it this, how am I doing? How am I scoring? What do people think of me? Have I made the right impression? So it's this contrast between what it is to be a human being and the opposite of that, which is how am I doing as a human being, which becomes very, very constricted, and it's generally very negative, and it's kind of punished oriented. We punish ourselves, geez, I didn't stick to my scorecard. Well, who gives a shit whether you stuck to your scorecard? What's the point of the scorecard? Well, it's so I can be in better shape and I can make more things happen. So it's that element.
Mm-hmm.
That, so it's, go ahead.
Can you expand more on that?
I think that what I have found is, instead of battling what I want to become, I need to be in presence. It was funny, I just put a book down called Be Here Now, and I picked it up back in the 60s. And it's all about this brilliant Harvard professor who had reached epitome of his. He had all the cars and all the toys, and wherever he showed up, the room quieted it because they wanted to listen to him. Then he brought a guy on who they gave a closet to at Harvard, basically a closet, and he had a desk in there, and his name was Timothy Leary. And they started doing a lot of journeys, and they did so much psilocybin and acid that it wasn't making an impact any longer, other than what it would do is help them transcend and help them see life from a totally different perspective. But so what? Because as soon as a few days would go behind them, they'd be back to their normal lives. And so the whole quest was to try to maintain that sense of enlightenment, which is the quest that we all have, is to get clearer and to make things easier and to continue to grow and expand. Where the aha for me was, what if we're already there? And so why don't we have the time of our lives while we're struggling? Why don't we enjoy while we're achieving? Why do we do this whole thing about scorecard? Because we haven't embraced yet the concept that we were everything we needed to be when we popped out of the womb. And so it was kind of equating this, and then just to position against that was, do I really want to do another 90-minute? Do I really think that was important? If people can't watch a 30-second Instagram, how do I expect them to watch 90 minutes of anything? And then I started questioning the vehicle. And when you question the vehicle, sometimes you end up coming back and questioning, well, would anyone want to listen for 90 minutes? And I think that's the challenge we face when we do and it's what life's all about, the yin yang, the good, bad. You can't experience joy if you haven't struggled, all of these things. But are those taught to us? Are we being led to believe that that's what's got to happen in our lives? And so without knowing it, we don't question it any longer. And I think that was the aha, was how am I, do I have to even ask myself how I'm doing at being a human being, or am I right back into the trap again? And why don't I just, I'm so looking forward to tuning into you guys. I mean, all week, if something's kind of goes sideways, I get to get together with the guys. Whether I'm on or not, it's just the ability to listen to what you're sharing and to challenge your ideas. And then I always get a kick out of, yeah, but we're back to, yeah, but we're not doing this. And yeah, but we're not doing that. And I'm going, why can't you allow yourself to be enjoying it?
Hey dudes, sorry for the interruption here. Just wanted to let you know, if you want to join our pro team, go to romasteam.com/pro. You can help support the channel. You will also get access to exclusive content, masterminds, one-on-one sessions, etc. All right, back to the episode.
I'm sorry, Larry. I have fallen into a pattern of like it's confessional time as soon as we start, and it's like, how bad is your sleep? It's really, it's as narrow as how bad is your sleep? Wes, pretty bad. Yeah, same. Okay. Who would want us to be leaders? I don't know. Okay, I guess let's get Larry on. But Larry,
how far from the truth?
Larry, like a couple of things. I love you, man. I love your sharing, the way you share your wisdom. I also love that this podcast, this what we do together is 90% listening. Yeah, sure, I love having the mic, but it's 90% listening. I haven't read Be Here Now, but Timothy Leary is a relative of mine. My mom only told me that when I was 30 years old, though, because she didn't want me knowing, like, she didn't want me looking him up when I was 17 or 18, right?
Wow.
Because he's done more acid than all the members of the Grateful Dead combined, right? I heard someone. Yeah, I've heard someone describe, like, now I don't read very easily. I listen a lot better, and I remember hearing an NPR show about the art, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, right? Which I know is one of Kaizen's favorite books. And someone said he read it in his high school, then he read it with his son later on, and it's just about the pursuit of quality, or the search for quality. And that was his kind of like definition of Buddhism, which I loved, right? Because that's not like the way he said it isn't like, I'm imperfect, I need to perfect myself, right? So like the search for quality is pursuit of quality. I like that. And then another thing that came to mind is the journey, right? Like, enjoy the journey, even if they tell us that sometimes, like, even if they're teaching that at school now, it's something you kind of have to come to on your own, right? Like, and so Larry, maybe the scorecard allows me to enjoy the journey more, right? I think we can all agree that exercise, exercise, AA meetings for me, my men's group for me, isn't a penance that a priest gives you because of the sins you confess to, isn't punishment or jail, right? Like, for me, this group, AA meetings and exercise are examples of things that allow me to enjoy the journey even more, right? And so that mindset shift that you're inviting us to do kind of resonates with me, because, for example, to my wife, when she hears me say, "Hi, my name's Ray and I'm an alcoholic," she thinks, like, to some people that sounds like you are admitting to a crime before a police officer, a judge, right? Or admitting to a failure. But like, you can also look at that as saying, "I'm Ray and I'm an alcoholic," as like owning yourself, still loving yourself, and just kind of like, and in a weird way, enjoying the journey, because you know where you've been and you know the road that you're currently on, which is not denial, and which is not kind of like in the depths of addiction, but kind of owning it. And like, so I'm kind of losing the words for it right now, but those are the things I thought of.
Is there an element where MFG would say, when you make that statement, it's not giving into the title, it's shining light on the shame, and therefore making it less shameful? Absolutely.
And like, I remember when a friend of mine committed suicide a couple of years ago, and we were at his funeral, and like, there were a lot just like, those funeral platitudes where he was a great guy and we're going to miss him. But like, it occurred to me, and I said it like discreetly at different times to people, that like, drug addiction, sexual abuse, and suicide are examples of things that thrive and metastasize when they're kept in the shadows, right? But by shining a light on them, it kind of prevents evil from kind of like repeating or something, right? Or, so I think MFG would obviously have more of a, he would say it with that Southie accent and whatever, right? I'm not from South, I'm from Dorchester, he would say. But yeah, so no, that's exactly right, Wes. Thank you for adding that.
Well, you talked last week. I think you asked a question: why do we lie? And I think that's a testament to, I'm not going to lie about this. This is something I'm dealing with. Maybe I'm dealing with it for the rest of my life, but I'm kind of proud of the fact that. And
unemployment was unemployment was that for me for years. Where I think I've mentioned this before. I had to go to like a $14,000 week-long meditation retreat in order to be able to utter the words, "I don't have a job," right? Because because that was my great shame.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. And then I kind of like went too overboard when someone would at a dinner party or cocktail party would ask me what I do, and I say, "Oh, I don't have a job," But then, which it would kind of like shock them, right? But now
you actually work.
Yeah. Oh heavens, no. But then Wes and I talked about this before. It's like where we ask people what's their passion or something, or there's a way to ask it where it's not like, what do you do to pay your utility bills, right? But just like you can like really connect with someone on an electric level, which is all we're trying to do when we ask, what do you do, right? We're trying to look for commonality.
Yeah. And it's so refreshing when you meet someone who's honest and transparent. It gives you the opportunity, right? Yeah, to be able to reveal more of yourself.
Yes.
And so I espouse having this pure identity and yet I'm still a work in progress, trying to make sure that I'm not constantly. So how did I do? And I think that I don't know. They talk about another book that I think has been enlightening for me is been around a while now. Conversations with God, and it's profound because it's not there's no ideology to it. There's no religion. There's no way.
Not with my God. It's not conversations with my God.
And it puts it in such an evolved perspective that you can't deny any of it without defending some limited belief. Mm-hmm. The only way you deny it is defend a limiting belief. And so one of the things it talks about is apparently the idea is a guy is a minister, and he's been asking God all these questions and God never answers. And finally he kind of channels and writes this brilliant book. At least that's my perception of it. And just has these conversations and asks all these questions, why do people struggle, and why, if there's a God, why, blah, 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 blah. And he gets back to, that's why I gave you free will. I want to experience life through you. And that's how I, have any sense of identity. But anyway, he goes on to when am I finally going to, figure this out? And he goes, oh, you're so much more evolved now. And maybe in the next lifetime. And I'm thinking, oh, now he's bringing lifetimes in. And what he was really sharing was, it just like in physics, there's no loss of energy. And so what that means is there's an eternality to an existence, and that existence is energy, or whatever, however you want to call it or whatever you want to title it. And he talks about how as you gain more insights, now that we climb that mountain, we see another peak. And so our whole reason for existing is to continue to strive towards enlightenment, to strive towards a sense of peace, whether it's saying I'm an alcoholic, so I don't have to wander around being ashamed or embarrassed by that, by the ignorant people who are pointing fingers, and then they go and they have a couple shots, and it's sure, I'm glad I don't have a problem. Those elements. So,
or when we see obese people, right, and we just say, like, Why don't you keep your ass out of McDonald's or something?
Yeah.
So,
Have you done it putting the fork down?
Larry, couple of things, man. Again, I just love the Ray and Larry podcast. I just love it. With our moderator, Wes, with our timekeeper, Wes.
Wes is practicing the listening principle.
That's right.
Right.
He's the enlightened one.
And Larry, we know you're not a spiritual giant, man. We know you are on the journey just like the rest of us. When you said, talked about limiting beliefs, another great piece of content, John Walter from this group and I were listening to, we got on a real kind of Wayne Dyer rabbit hole. And Wayne Dyer, he's like the kind of, how would you call him? Like a motivational speaker guru with the worst pictures from the 70s of just imagine him in Hall and Oates with the mustache and the kind of, it's great. Feathered hair like Farrah Fawcett. But he said, there are no justified resentments, right? And I mean, I have trouble understanding what the resentment is because in 12-step recovery, resentment's all over there, right? Where it's resentment is the revenge you want to seek against someone who you think harmed you. Resentment is the reason you drink because they'll never understand you. Resentment is why something is somebody else's fault, and it's something I really don't have a handle on. It's like judgment, being judgmental, it's Wes, we talk about comparison and stuff, right? And comparison is a thief of joy, but then comparison is also useful, right? So I suppose there's a healthy way and an unhealthy way to do comparison, but the line, there are no justified resentments. When you talked about limiting beliefs, I would like to add that there are no justified limiting beliefs.
Yeah, he talks about there's no right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And, and that becomes quite a conversation. What do you mean there's no right or wrong? What about the 10 Commandments? And, and he goes, I didn't write those. You guys wrote those. I would never give you free will and then put restrictions on you. It's an oxymoron. So it's these dichotomies that keep coming up, and they keep
or
coming
paradoxes, as I said earlier, right?
Paradoxes, yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go, Larry, please.
Sorry, do you have a timekeeping issue, Wes, or can he keep going?
Yeah, my batteries ran out. I'm sorry. Sorry, Larry, please finish up that thought, then I'm going to put something else on the table.
Okay. Yeah, so Larry, you were saying so in the voice of God, you were saying those aren't my rules. I didn't create the parking meter rules. Right? That's not right or wrong.
You're the ones who imposed good and evil. He goes, why would I ever have evil? He goes, that's the most bizarre thing I've ever heard of. And when you put those questions out there, and you've perhaps had a belief that there's a negative force, and the way the brain works, whatever belief you may have, you will manifest. And and you look at the biblical side, whatever a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. I mean, it doesn't matter where you get the wisdom from. We are the manifestations of the realities that we are experiencing. And how did we come about is where we get into God, we get into energy, we get into our definition of something that once you put a definition on it, you no longer understand it. Because now it's restricted to your own definition. And just like resentment, and judgment, when you mentioned that, why would you judge somebody who's overweight? Because you have a weight issue yourself. That's the only reason you would judge them. If you're feeling really good about yourself, you're not judging anybody. You're full of love.
Right.
You just want to be of value to them, and you sit down, you talk with them. You don't talk about diet. And they may say, God, I just can't seem to stop this habit of eating this junk food. No, why would that be important for you to stop it? And you just happen to have appeared at a time in their life where they're ready, some infusion of lack of judgment and someone who's here to care for me and love me.
Mm-hmm.
And what does the person end up doing? They stop going to McDonald's, not because somebody told them they'd die if they did, or they watched some documentary on it, some guy. So I just think that's what's enlightening about getting together with you guys is
Thank you.
ideas come together. Our brain is so amazing that it'll find resolution to matter what the situation is if we go to that direction instead of trying to judge the situation.
Right.
We
I
just
think, yeah, like another part of that Brene Brown, Tim Ferriss clip that I saw was, again, and it was kind of like a Larry West conversation where it was like, Larry proposes self-acceptance and Wes might say, well, what about the person who has a weight issue or is underperforming or is unhealthy? Like, is self-acceptance not a form of complacency? And her definition of self-acceptance was love at the root of it, right? Because that made me think of like judgment, right? Like Wes might say, what's wrong with seeing an obese person and thinking that person has unhealthy habits, right? And what's wrong is that a mind that does that typically reserves the harshest judgment for itself, right? And so when you proposed that like a loving approach, Larry, might be a way to help that person transform, like the same is needed. The same might be lacking in the judgmental person. Now, I'm not calling you judgmental, Wes. I'm just like calling you judgmental. Okay.
Yeah. Well, let me throw this out there because Phil G just left in the comments saying he's been dealing with a heavy amount of shame from past mistakes that he's made and he's working through, which weirdly enough was one of the pieces of content that I want to put on the board, which was there's no out except through. And I really like that, like really, really like that. So what do you guys think about that quote? There's no out except through. Ray, I'll throw it over to you first.
I just agree. That's my, or I just love that. That's my contribution.
Larry, what are your thoughts?
It's simplistically profound. Because it's kind of what I shared with you before. Fear is face everything and recover. Mm-hmm. You got to go through it. You got to experience it. You've got to be able to say, there was a comment that somebody's feeling guilty because they're in a hotel for a few days. They got out of there.
It's just MFG bragging again. So
but by the same token, why would you have to do that? You follow me? What has been driving you that's causing you to not allow yourself to enjoy those moments?
Yeah.
That are now what you're striving for. If you complained at one moment about being in the van, what were you asking yourself would be better? And now you have a bed. Now you have. And so sometimes when we get into a mindset, when our brain is programmed to constantly be looking outside for some kind of resolution, we can't even enjoy inside. And I use that metaphorically. From the van to the room, I should have gone from depression to elation. If that was the program I was on. And if I'm not, well, then I got to break the thought pattern. It's not going to be the home that I get. It's not going to be that, once as soon as. And that's another one of these little, jump. Here's a piece of candy, jump. And that candy could be a grade. That candy could be a dollar amount. That candy could be once I have a home. That candy could be once I figure out it's not going to be a 90-minute, whatever it may be. It's a contrivance and manipulation to get us to be obedient, and it gets back to church and state. The state was all about setting rules, or we'd run amok, and we'd kill and maim each other. And then the church was about the mental restrictions, so that now we got them physically, let's get them mentally, and then we grow up an entire society that thinks that way. And it gets into a competitive mentality, and now it's one country after another, and pretty soon, it's an interesting reality. But to be done, I'll be done right here, and that is the answer that God keeps giving is whatever moment you're in, ask yourself, what would my higher self be doing now? And he goes, the answer is the higher self is when you're coming from love. So when you're about to criticize someone who's overeating, if I love them, how would I how would I be reacting now?
Mm.
Right? I mean, it's like, remember Seneca says, if you don't fire your children because they got a bad grade, why would you fire someone at work because they had poor performance? Right?
Mm.
And to be, his whole thing on why, he's the one who created celebrity to why, Simon Sinek. But those are the whole things about there's no out except through. And the through is the experience.
That's
Love
the
it.
journey.
Phil G, want to invite you up,
What's
brother.
up,
I saw
Phil?
your hand raised.
What's
Let's
up,
do it,
guys?
bud.
Thanks for having me.
Hell
And
yeah,
in
dude.
case anyone doesn't know, I'm the older brother of Matt Gunther. So
Oh,
Right
no
on.
way. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Right on.
Dude, I was
He's
just
put a
thinking
bit in
about
here.
Gunther yesterday. I haven't seen him in a while. Please tell him we said what's up.
I will.
Dude, I
I think
haven't seen it. Like, I figured he was getting the like bicep transplants from a gorilla that he's been saving up for. It looks like he got them.
I know. I'm down in Dewey, Delaware with my girlfriend, so that's why I had to just remake this spot so I could hop in. But yeah, Matt went to he actually is in Atlantic City, so
Oh,
hoping he
nice.
made it through the night through there. but
Nothing good
I'll-
ever happens in Atlantic City. from what I
Exactly. I'll have
understand.
to tell him I made it to the men's group and he didn't. So
So,
Gotta get some penicillin
Gunther,
shots after,
tell us,
we
So
understand.
you're Gunther 1, I guess, if you're the older one.
yes.
So number 1, tell us about your journey and tell us why our discussion today resonates with you.
Yeah. So I've been following a little bit from afar,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been meaning to get more active within the group, and a lot of that too with Matt was just like you got to hop in and just dive in and participate if you're going to show up. And he's been pushing me, but being the older brother and this kind of dynamics, I also was like, I don't know if he should have his own spot or this. A lot of the stuff too. It's just been
You don't take orders from him,
right?
you don't take
I
orders
know,
from Junior.
That's true. That's true. But yeah, well, right now, currently too, I'm unemployed and looking for a job. I've been putting it in. So a lot of the stuff, right, when you were talking about that shame and having that come up is stuff that I've been fighting through. And but I'm finally starting to get towards a little breaking the wall down. When we had our commute here, which is like 3.5 hours down to get to the shore, I was listening to Atomic Habits. And a big part of it too that started resonating with me, it was trying to make these changes too, is about finding in your identity and using that to shape the processes around it, your daily habits and the routines and stuff like that. Because, I've been wanting to make a lot of changes, but hitting some walls and just kind of, mentally it would weigh me down and stuff too, not being out of the workforce for a bit and gaining that confidence back that I can, be valuable. And just even here too, like, you guys offer a great service. You're always supporting each other, but I've had that feeling where I'm like, what can I add? Or,
who would want to hear from me?
Hear from me. Yeah, exactly. That whole thing.
Bum.
So,
So look, Gunther, can I riff on that?
Sure. Yeah, of course.
So I can totally relate, dude. My most recent stretch of unemployment was 5 years. So I don't know. I think I've got.
Yeah, I think Ray has you beat, Gunther.
But you're basically up against the Tom Brady of unemployment here. Okay, so now I'm now retired from unemployment, and like Brady, I should have retired earlier, and it cost me everything. But the thing is the problem with my wife. So marrying rich and being unemployed is it's again how I've got you beat probably, and but she's just apply for this job. Just show up at the job interview with your depression and your fear and your insecurity and go get that job, And it's and even it even drives her mad when she comes home and I'm on an AA meeting, Zoom, or she comes home and I'm on. I don't know if you could hear the fridge slamming earlier, but I'm on this group because the thing is that there's such shame associated with unemployment in our society. And so we call it transitioning careers now, right? Which I thought was kind of a woke cop out, but it's absolutely correct because what might work for you and what worked for me is I had to switch careers. And I'm not saying you do, but like I had to get the mindset of I'm switching careers. I'm into something I love, or I'm tweaking it into something I love. So it doesn't matter if I'm doing it for less money. It doesn't matter if it's a longer commute. Like, those aren't things I'm seeking out, but the job I'm doing, is so enriching to me. And, you know, as a result, I provide so much value that like those are the more motivating forces, right? Because like when I show up for a job interview and like I don't even get to the job interview anymore. Like when I write a cover letter and it just like it basically communicates, hey, my wife is making my life a living hell. Like so just give me this job so I can fucking, you know, sleep in peace. And like, yeah, we'll figure out if I can provide value later, right? So like, definitely, Gunther, if you're up for it, take this time to work on yourself. An extra week or month or whatever, you know, I'm not going to say year, but whatever the length of time is for you to better pursue your magnificence as a man is 100% worth it. Wes, give him his reality check.
Well, hold on. Let me throw it over to Larry first. Larry, what is your go round table here? What's your opinion on this? And Gunther, as long as you don't mind us going
Of
full
course,
circle.
yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's called the gangbang, Gunther.
All for it.
You know, following up what Ray shared, you can't skip the time that you need to be able to get yourself feeling worthy enough to show up in front of anybody that's going to offer you compensation for what you offer. And otherwise, there's no faking it till you make it. That's the biggest bullshit that I've ever heard in my life, because people see right through one another and they know whether you feel confident about yourself, even if you don't have a job, you know, as long as you feel like you can bring value, and spend some time looking at your uniqueness. In other words, you know, why do people like you at a party? You know, what is it that's attractive about you to other people that they want to be near you and they want to be a part of your life? Because those are the innate strengths that you offer that you haven't been taught how to appreciate. So you seek other ways. You go get training to be equipped to do something that's mundane, and you're bored to death. And yet you've got a skill. Your real skill is what is just natural for you. And so as you start to make a list of just things that come easy, just what comes easy to me, you know, what's easy for me in a relationship? And, you know, stay out of the thing about, well, I don't like meeting new people. You know, if you say that to yourself, ask yourself why. And it typically gets back to the worthiness thing, because you think they're not going to value you, or they're not going to like you, or you know, you don't have the right education, you didn't go to the right school, or you don't have to drive the right car. You don't want those people valuing you anyway. That's not the group you want to be hanging with. So just, you know, take a moment and start listing the things that are just natural. And what you'll do is you'll start to recognize that I'm already equipped. Now I have to, one of the jobs that I got after reading What Color Is My Parachute, which was like a 600-page preparation to get a job book, which was ridiculous. I went in there and it was for Union Oil, and it was a job where you went around to these gas stations and you helped them increase their productivity. Well, I didn't know anything about finance. I didn't know anything about productivity, but I knew I needed a job. So I walked into the interview. There's 15 other guys sitting there, all in suits and stuff. And I walk into the interview and the guy says, okay, so what do you have to offer? And I go, well, you know, I'm pretty clear in what I have to offer. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to find out now what you are offering to make sure that I'm excited enough about it, that I can bring what I can bring. Because I know whatever it is that you have, if I'm in sync with it, I'm going to increase your revenue in all areas. And that was the end of the interview. Because everybody else came in with all these big spiels and these great, you know, resumes. but nobody asked the interviewer any questions. Well, now that's becoming a little more commonplace. I mean, this was like back in the 70s. And yet it was a real great lesson about be unique by finding out what would I be doing? What do you expect? And now you're asking yourself, is this something I could get behind, even if it's, not my ultimate job in life? It is a door opener, which then you meet the person that can lead you, as in another direction. So that was a long way, Wes. I apologize for that.
No, it's great. Gunther, let me ask you some questions, if that's okay. Sure. Do you know what job you're looking for and/or industry? What does that look like?
So that's kind of what the crossroads where I'm at here now too. I do have there's a work gap. So I know I'm at the point too where I'm not trying to be too picky, but it is also a thing where I'm like, I'd feel more confident if I had a solid direction I was heading towards or something to look forward down there. But I studied accounting in college, was on like a CPA type track through there, but it took me a little bit too long at the end to realize I don't know if this is exactly something that's lighting my fire or just even I struggled with it. It's a lot of the classmates. It was a really good school, and people had accountants in the family or help them get internships and that kind of thing. And I literally had never talked to an accountant before, or kind of knew. Mm-hmm. So that was a bit ago, but so I hopped in. I was doing as I was finishing up, I did like Best Buy wireless sales, try to do that kind of thing, and I'd gotten into insurance sales and was running that kind of thing. And then after that, ended up doing like technical support over the phone for like a payment processor. So I've kind of hopped all around. And the big thing was just kind of, when I spent a lot of time this past week working on my resume and stuff and getting things together, and it, trying to find connective skills or different things in value. And I'm like, it looks like I'm all in sort of different directions. So I've done with the work now too, and even talking with my brother. And then I know this next job isn't going to be a forever job, or it's not going to be the perfect thing. And I just kind of have to get myself back into that flow, have something on there for the next job and the next places. And, my girlfriend's been very helpful through this too. She, like you were saying, Ray, she's in pharma, and she's got a really good job in this stuff. She crushes all that. So she helped me with the resume stuff, and she was saying that like a job is like a relationship. It doesn't have to stay there forever. You can go in different directions, or like things like that. And I think for a bit I kind of I was working overnights with one of the jobs and lost a lot of connections with people and some of my regular routines, and it was just like mentally a really tough experience. So like now, just even framing myself to that, like, hey, I'm valuable to a company. This can be a good experience. I can get into a place that has a better culture than stuff I had in the past. Like that's a lot of the reframing and stuff I've been trying to get into. I know it might not directly answer your question, Wes.
No,
it's very helpful, Phil. It's very helpful. And what I'm hearing, Wes, from him is that, like me, like all of us, he's on a journey. Like he's not from small town Michigan where he goes to work at the auto plant and he retires when he's 65, right? And lives in Hamtramck in a little house. Like he's on a journey, just like us. And that's awesome, right? And so, Wes, what is your practical, like Terminator 2, like supercomputer, cyborg brain tell him for someone who's on that journey?
Yeah. So I'll tell you what I would do personally. Now I don't know the financial situation, so like keep that in mind. If like you and your family's on a burn rate that you have to start making money tomorrow, this answer would be different. So stop me if I'm on the right off the track. Number one, what I hear is 100% I would reframe from a state of need to a state of contribution, right? Like here's what I can contribute. However, I think the prerequisite to that is really defining what you want. Like I think that's 95% of action is like, what precisely do I want? Because your brain, your prefrontal cortex has such a unique and masterful ability to simulate permutations of options ahead of time. However, when you're in a situation like you're in, like we have to find a job, it's so easy to get distracted from what you long-term want because the short-term opportunity, air quotes, opportunities in front of you. No different than finding a spouse, et cetera. You know, it's like really define the attributes that they want, and then you might decide whether or not you would be going into that bar to find those attributes. Chances are not, right? But if you never have that prerequisite like time to do that, then you're going to be off on a bad path. You are off on an unlikely path, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. The amount of people that I know that hop from job to job to job to job, just because they did not do the strategic thinking, is the majority of my peers. Like quite literally, they never sat down, and then they get I have this one friend in particular, just keeps on getting perpetually gets a next opportunity that's not really the great opportunity for her, but because she gets fed up with the job, right, that she's in currently, now by contrast, it looks like an outstanding position to go to the next company, and then she has the same exact problems at the next company. This has been going on, I'm not kidding, for 12 years, literally. So you're at the beach now. Dewey's a phenomenal place to think if you sit on the beach and think for a while. When I challenge people, it's like, hey, have you thought about that? They're like, yeah, okay, great. Prove it. Have you really sat down for multiple hours? Because 2-3 hours of thought, in my opinion, can trump 2 to 3 years worth of work effort that's in the wrong direction, in my opinion. So really defining what you want, and then really saying, like, what are your skill sets? And what do you like doing? So putting yourself in that flow state, I think playing the game that you're willing to play for multiple years and decades puts you at the top from the beginning, right? Like, I cannot compete with you in certain areas if you're doing what you really love, and vice versa, right? But I think most people don't do that. So find out. So really, I shouldn't say find out. Discover through your own introspective process, what do you really like doing? Is it accounting? That's not exactly, I shouldn't say it's opposite, but it's not exactly aligned with sales, or maybe it could be, right? Yeah. Those are two very different skill sets you're using throughout the day. So let me ask you, if you had to tell us right now how you spend your perfect day in an occupation, what would that look like? Would you be on a computer all day? Would you be talking to people all day? Would you be helping people make decisions? What would be your value contribution to society?
Yeah. I think through the one of the things that was different for me too with the accounting or and it's changed in the past through there. Like I think I can connect with certain people, or I've had when I'm able to get past the mental hangups through there. Like working in a team environment is probably something that I would like to be, into. Like even a lot too. I have our mother was a teacher and a coach for a bit too, and up to probably the point of when I was in college too, when I realized like, oh, these loans and everything through here is the best direction to kind of head in that field. But I, like sports, and Matt, as you can see, Matt in the time in his gym, we kind of connect to like the competition, the sports team aspect. Like that's something where I have a big passion for, like whenever I talk about that kind of thing. That's probably, that gives me the biggest fire through there. But
can you clarify? I want to make sure I'm not losing you there. Can you clarify that a bit? So I think there's might be some gold in here.
Kind of like, I don't know. I've spent a couple, even in between jobs. I was working with youth kids training. I did pitching lessons and that kind of stuff, and like that. That's where I found too a lot of the passion and stuff, helping and teaching others and like through there. But I guess
Wes, I think we're talking to an enthusiastic teacher over here.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, Gunther, just so you know, so one of my avatars that I act through is enthusiastic teacher. Like that's my passion, is if I can be put in a spot to teach people, and specifically enthusiastically teaching. Like that's my happy place. So we're hearing similar things. That's what Gunther is saying. So I'm sorry, keep going, bud.
No, I think that I guess and part of that too, or where I felt some of the emptiness in the in between, is having like that shame or not being able to contribute, feeling like I can't contribute certain things, or even at times too, I was uncomfortable getting back into those situations where because I wasn't coaching full time or having the teaching thing. So even when I had a position where like a guy was talking to me about helping out with like this freshman team that was near us, and I was like, thinking in my head like I wasn't adequate because other people might have been doing this longer than me. And I'm like, looking back now and different stuff too, I'm like, a lot of the stuff too has just been the mental games too there, and thinking, and part of stuff too in my past, even when I had a job when I was doing like technical sport overnights too, like there were opportunities where when there was a new hire in and stuff like that, I was comfortable with being a resource for that, like newer employees, and just kind of helping people know what they can do. So I think that like I'm trying to think in ways or traits and different things like that I can relate to in there, where that those kind of skills are applicable. As far as working in the office or that kind of thing, like I'm not too hung up on it either way, or like even now too, I'm looking at remote things, and part of that's like, would that be a change? But I'm kind of like, I'm at a point where I'm really open, and I'm just like excited for a new challenge in whichever kind of way it might be, as far as that brand kind of thing. I know that's a little bit all over the place, but
yeah, no, there's a great story. Have you ever watched the movie Pursuit of Happiness?
I haven't seen that one fully, but I know.
Okay.
Will Smith. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Phenomenal movie. Well, in part of the movie, his son is telling Will this little story, and said, there's this guy who's out on a boat. His boat sank, so he's out on like the life raft sort of thing. And then this other boat comes over and says, "Hey, would you like me to save you?" He says, No. God has a plan for me. He's going to save me soon. So the boat leaves, and then a helicopter comes overhead, and the helicopter guy says, "Hey, do you let me pick you up here and help save you?" Guy says, No. God has a plan. He's going to save me. Then, sure enough, a handful of days later, his boat sinks, right? Runs out of air or whatever, and falls, and the guy dies, or sinks, and the guy dies, and then goes up to heaven, and God says, "Hey, how's it going?" And the guy says, "Well, you were going to save me." He's like, "Well, what are you talking about? I sent you a boat and I sent you a helicopter, and you didn't take either one of them." So sounds to me like there's a piece of that in your story. Like it sounds like your heart, and I'll very rarely ever use that word. It sounds like your heart knows the direction, but you have some sort of your brain is blocking it for some reason. And understandably so, right? Like things are scary. It sounds to me, exactly what you want, right?
And
if you want to go out there and coach, you want to go out there and teach, then go freaking do it. And understand that you can move forward with that little monkey brain inside saying, "Oh no, you're not good enough," or "That's weird," or "What will my neighbors think," or blah, blah, blah. It sounds like you have a great thing, which is a supportive girlfriend, and you have the seed of desire. It's now just about letting that seed, right, sprout.
Hey,
Wes,
can I ask Bill a question?
Okay. Go ahead.
If you're coaching someone and they're running into them, is your advice get out of the way and run? If somebody's charging you, is your advice, go find a corner and hide in?
No, yeah, you got to take it head on.
Well, and that's what we're talking about.
Right.
Because then there's no doubt, there's no fear. You're just taking it on. If you can find a place to volunteer with a coach, hey coach, do you need someone around? Whatever you can do to get in the field. And in the meantime, just know from me, I started my life over again at 47. Okay. Are you 47?
No.
Okay. So you got to jump
That'd
on.
be 36. Yeah.
Okay. And a buddy and I
so
got
we're dealing with a baby.
A buddy and I got a bet to see who had the most jobs. Okay. I had 23. He had 22. This is by 1983. I've been doing what I've been doing since 83. And but before that, I always left a job, Phil, because I wasn't getting paid enough or respected enough. And then what happened in the next job? And then what happened in the next job? And because I kept changing my jobs, I didn't know how to change my mind. And I really, what Wes is saying, what Ray is saying, what we're all saying, and we have to say it to ourselves as well, is your only enemy is giving yourself permission to be amazing. You're focusing on why you're falling short, not on, hey, I'm an awesome motherfucker. And those guys, anybody be proud to have me on their team because I have their back and I like to see people grow. And let people experience that. That you don't worry about whether I know enough yet. You'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. Right? You're competent.
Yeah, I think too, well, part of it, I have, not to get into it all here because I'm going to be short, but some of the stuff with the past two, Ray, addiction and stuff like that, I dealt with, and it's been many years now that I've over 7 years clean off of that. So I'm proud of that stuff, but it also makes me at times, I feel like, especially too with the coaching or that and kids, I'm like, oh, is that the best fit given
it is
YZ, but that's where
Now you say yes. Yes, I am.
The rest of them are still in addiction, all right, dude?
That's
and
true.
Then here's the other thing, depression is real, and men being unemployed get medically depressed. So don't be afraid to ask for help, just like you're asking for help right now. Okay. I take Prozac because I get depressed, and I assure you, it was never darker than when I was unemployed. And I felt that hopelessness, that maybe you feel occasionally, that we all feel occasionally, and that we're trying to remedy here. Wes, I'm sorry if you already mentioned this, but what percentage of employers would look disappointed at someone who's got whatever amount of accounting training?
Oh, dude. I mean, in terms of accounting training, right? That's one of the baseline hard skills of business. You're employable basically in every form of business if you have accounting or finance.
Based
training.
on that alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
What percentage of employers see accounting training and they're like, this doesn't seem like a competent guy.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think we're all saying flip this around. You're Phil, if you don't mind me saying this, what we can hear in your tone and everything and some of your words is coming from a place of oh gosh, golly shucks, I'm not good enough. It's no.
And
How
we
about
know
you
that
decide
voice.
what you want? Exactly. Decide what you want instead of coming from needs. Come from a place of hey, here's what I can contribute. What can you what can you guys do for me? And then for the addiction part in the past, Jordan Peterson has a great speech about this. A bunny rabbit is not virtuous because being virtuous is having the ability to do harm and not doing it. A bunny rabbit cannot do harm. So the only way you can be virtuous is if you are a monster and not acting monstrously. So referring to your past, you had a dark past. Congratulations. We all did. That's a good thing. That makes us men who say, okay, we know the bad paths and we've now deliberately chosen not to go down them. And dude, if you're trying to get out there and help young men especially, right, you can help them avoid those bad paths because of your past. You know what I mean? So I think that's a strength, not a weakness.
100%.
Well said, Wes.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, heck yeah, man.
And like I said in the text, this is why we do this men's group. Okay, you're not wasting anyone's time. This is why we do it.
Yeah,
I put my number in the chat, but my phone is broken, so I had to voice to text, and then so I got most of the numbers there, but just it's the 6 numbers, and then the last one written out 7. You just make that the last number. Text me. Wes and I are happy to give you as much one-on-one support as you need. Because selfishly, Phil, we learn from you when we get the honor of hearing your story, joining you, and we get the honor of remembering where we were when we were in your situation and how long we languished. And then when someone offered us help, how quickly we took off like a jet. So
your angels have arrived, Phil.
Yeah, man.
Hell yeah. Thanks.
So I
guys.
put my
That's
number in
awesome.
the text. You fucking use it. Okay.
I'm in the Discord too. I can hit you up there too.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
So
And then one final piece on this, if anybody is listening to this in a similar situation.
I'm so pumped up.
Once you define exactly what you want and then realize, okay, that's where you go and spend your energy, just know that from there, it's going to be a volume game. And a lot of people know this, but they don't really know the scope of the volume. It's like hundreds of pieces, if not thousands of pieces of little bits of volume. The amount of times you have to send your resume to companies and they don't get back to you because I'm on the hiring side relatively frequently. Dude, I can tell you when we post a job, we get hundreds of resumes. So like we just can't sift through them all. That has nothing to do with the applicants, just everything to do with like the resources of time. So now some people would hear that and be, disheartened. It's like, no, that just means you have to out offense the problem. So you just have to send out more and more and more and more and then follow up more and more and more. But then also there's ways of breaking through the noise. Dude, it's so funny. If somebody really wanted an interview with us, like easily, right? Rather than just sending their resume, if they just literally called us, right? Like that's the hack around all of it.
Yeah.
Same device.
Or
just
if they
using the phone function instead of the email function.
Yeah. Or if they
showed up and knocked on your door, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Like, so I'd imagine that, yes, you have to send out hundreds of these pieces of resumes, et cetera. However, if you just took 10 minutes to make a phone call, right, you could probably eliminate 6 months worth of effort. So just things like that I'll throw out to you. Cool.
That's awesome.
Dude, Phil, you let us know.
Guys, I've got a jet. I just want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to witness such divine work going on. I'm blessed to be in all of your presence.
Hey, right back at you, dude.
Look forward to Friday.
Hell yes.
Thank you guys. Love you guys.
Talk soon, Phil.
Phil, thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.